I think there's going to be a lot of people that relate to this.
Low estrogen gives hot flashes. Therefore, if she has hot flashes,
Menopausal women are more likely to be given antidepressants than HRT.
I have these panic attacks. I'm not sure why I'm sad. There's no reason, but I didn't have them in my periods,
Testosterone is like, let's keep this party going. And progesterone is in the corner, I want to go home.
Perimenopause is not a smooth ride because it's doing this.
Yes.
Yeah.
Not doing this, it's
No.
going. Welcome to the She Word, conversations that women rarely have, but really should. I'm your host, Trudy Kerr, and I think that most women will agree talking about menopause openly is a relatively recent trend. As much as shame and embarrassment may have contributed to women staying quiet about this perfectly natural, normal, and every woman experience, the insane lack of medical research and knowledge has also contributed to women being largely in the dark when it comes to this significant life event. Thankfully, the attitude towards HRT is beginning to change. Natural supplements are on the rise, and lifestyle changes are well understood to relieve symptoms. But in a previous show about menopause, and we've had quite a few, one guest stunned me by sharing the truth that perimenopause is much worse than menopause because, quite simply, often you just don't know that you're in it. Until very recently, menopause was defined as when your periods have stopped for over a year. But now we know that's not quite true. Perimenopause was the term used to determine the year before your period stopped. And now we understand that perimenopause lasts perhaps around 7 years, hitting women usually in their early 40s. Only in the recent last 2 years, some studies acknowledge that there are over 65 perimenopause and menopause symptoms rather than the stereotypical hot flush and night sweats. And in a recent clip that Chiara sent to me, I was horrified to read that menopausal women are more likely to be given antidepressants than HRT, a minimum risk hormonal replacement therapy. And 73% of women believe that their periods will get lighter as they head towards menopause. Again, this is utterly untrue. Periods often dig deep and have one last massive, heavy fling before they retire, leaving women exhausted, perplexed, and confused. One thing is absolutely undisputable. As women live longer, work longer, and have children later in life, there needs to be a great deal more research and investment into this inevitable phase of a woman's life in order to ease the passage into a woman's next era. But I'm glad to be joined by 3 women who do know a thing or two about this journey from a medical point of view, a psychological perspective, and from lived experience. Ladies, I am so glad that you're here, and I'm so glad that we're having this conversation. Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome. Chiara Friendo-Balzan, our resident gynecologist now here at the She Word. I'm so glad. I mean, we wouldn't have a show about perimenopause or menopause if you weren't on it, because you are really part of the fabric of the She Word. I'm so glad that you're back with us for this show. We're also joined by the Naked Pharmacist, aka Mari Mikhailov, a certified lifestyle coach and licensed pharmacist, empowering women to heal naturally, guiding them through listening to their bodies and making informed choices. I'm really glad that you're here as well. So excited to find out about the Naked Pharmacist. And Angel Galia, an artistic director, producer, actor, fine artist, teacher, writer at More or Less Theatre. We've actually hosted in each other on our own shows.
Yes.
But this is the first time you're on the She Word.
That's right.
And I'm really glad that you're here, and I'm going to stick with you because you are here from a lived experience point of view.
Yes.
So tell me a little bit more about you. What did I miss out?
I think you captured everything except for mother.
Ooh.
a part of my day as well. And my life.
Absolutely. And your life, indeed.
Yeah.
But you're here because you're here with lived experience. You're actually going through perimenopause.
Yes, I'll be turning 50 this year. So it's been, I'm very excited. I mean, the same excitement as I had when I was 4 turning to 5, same way. Like,
Wow,
yes.
go,
I've never
girlfriend.
been 50, so.
I love that.
Yeah, I guess
love
that's
it.
the way of looking
That's
at
the
it.
spirit.
Yes.
Superb.
But I have been going through perimenopause for, I'm guessing 8 years. It's been starting very gradually, and I wouldn't know what it is. And then I started reading, and then it starts to click. I think, I'm going through that, and that one, and that one.
And everything else. And that's why we're having this conversation, because I'm so excited to be diving into a topic that there's not enough understanding and awareness about.
Exactly.
So we're going to talk about that in just a moment. Oh, Chiara, I'm going to come to you because you're sitting there smiling at me. Did I miss out anything about you?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. But you just said something there's not enough awareness about. And I'm thinking, I've actually started to know about perimenopause because of my experience going through it, not because I've learned about it, because I wasn't taught menopause or perimenopause. But I might get to that later.
We are, without a shadow of a doubt, going to delve into that, because as you've just said, I didn't know that the word perimenopause even existed.
It's a new word.
Until I came into menopause. And I want to know, we'll talk about it a little bit later on and have a bit of maybe a menopausal rant at why we as women are going through a life-changing event that really there's been such little research and awareness about. We will come to that a little bit later on. Hello.
Hello.
The naked pharmacist. Marie, I'm so glad you're with you. What did I miss out about you?
No, I think you captured it well. I'm in this line of work because, like Chiara, I didn't know anything about perimenopause or menopause. I wasn't taught anything at university either. So when I went through it, I was in the dark, and it wasn't pleasant. It's a turbulent time, as we're finding out. And and then I started researching. I liked the work of Dr. Mindy Pelz, and I started following that. So then when she opened the first certification, I jumped in it and got certified, and that's what I'm doing now.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Well, I'm so glad that you're at the table because
Yeah.
this is such an important conversation, and so many women. I mean, look, here's the deal. If you make it to your 40s, you're guaranteed that you're going to be affected by perimenopause and then menopause in one way, shape, or another.
Or earlier.
Or earlier.
Yes.
Or earlier. Absolutely. But generally speaking, from what I understand, well, you know what I'm going to do? I'm not even going to go there because I have a question for you first, Chiara, and ladies jump in, and I'm looking right at you because I think most women today are aware that there is a thing called menopause, the change, as my mother used to call it. But I do believe that there's a big grey area when it comes to perimenopause, which is what you've just said, that it's a new word. Most women have heard of estrogen and progesterone in one way or shape or another because more women are talking about it. It was brand new to me. I didn't even know what these were. But a lot of women may not know the relevance of testosterone. And certainly I didn't even understand until it personally attacked me, the relevance of collagen. I've got a 3-part biology lesson question to kick off the show. What are the purposes of these hormones? What biologically happens in perimenopause and menopause? And why do we have this depletion in our body? There's your 3 parts, because I want to throw it on the table. I want to understand what is estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, and even we'll touch on collagen as well, because that really is quite significant.
Okay.
Fire away, go.
So I think it helps to start with the definitions first. So menopause is 1 year no periods. I'm not a big fan of this definition because we know that there could be surgical menopause. So if someone has their ovaries removed or they don't have a uterus anymore because they have a hysterectomy, that means they've stopped having periods. Doesn't mean they're menopause. So not natural menopause. People who are taking hormones, they could be also without periods, or the word amenorrhea, without period. So average age of natural menopause, let's go natural menopause, is 51. So this is average, okay? Average worldwide. Earlier in some parts of the world, like India, for example, we know it's earlier, younger. Average means the vast majority of women are going to go through this, okay, around that time. But also means between 45 and 55, we're going to go through menopause, okay? Perimenopause, so the word peri means around menopause. So this word was coined to show it's a time around menopause. And that's why in the past we used to think it's 1 year. And this is the initial thinking. Okay, so 1 year around menopause. Okay, until you become menopausal, and that's for the rest of your life. Okay. Now we know that perimenopause, and we know that there are these changes that happen, these hormonal fluctuations, and I can get to what actually physiologically, biologically is happening. We know that that can take even up to 10 years, possibly more. So recently, last couple of weeks, and Mari, we were talking about this recently as well, there are even earlier signs. So if someone tells you, because I say this, I'm in perimenopause, I'm 43 in a couple of months. And they say, the anxiety is still young. There's no such thing as too young.
Okay.
There is premature menopause, which by definition is a menopause before 45 years of age. But we can have these symptoms earlier.
I want to just throw something into there that's my own experience, and then come back to what's actually happening and what these hormones do, because then I think this unravels everything that we're going to talk about in the show. But one thing I just wanted to highlight, in case anybody's listening to the show and can relate to this, I was still having periods because I was on the pill well into my late 40s. And when I went to the doctor with all of these symptoms, with these aches, these pains, these butt sludge, which we'll talk about a little bit later on. I love saying butt sludge on the show. And I just stop giggling. But you know I want to say it. But also, you know, the fatigue and so on. When I went to see a doctor who knew, and she said to me, no, I'm pretty sure you're not just in perimenopause, you're in menopause. The minute I came off the pill and the period, I had my last period, 6 weeks later, I take the blood test, and she's like, no, Sweetness, you are in menopause. You've got the trophy. You've got the prize. So I think the reason I'm challenging this definition, because from my personal understanding, is that now we have so many other complications, so many other factors, that if somebody sits there and says, okay, menopause is only when you've not had periods for a year, that's not quite true.
Yeah.
And I bet that in a couple of years' time or a couple of months' time, that is going to change.
Yeah.
I hope so.
Yeah.
So let's come back to, I want to just to kick off, we've got the definition of what those time periods are.
What happens?
But before we get to what's happening, why it's happening, what do those hormones do? What do these hormones do? Because then we can understand why we're missing them.
Mari?
Yes, so estrogen. We start with estrogen.
Yeah.
So estrogen is the hormone that comes in the first part of our cycle, right? So day one is the day that we bleed. And then estrogen starts building and it reaches its peak at ovulation. So you get estrogen is going to release an egg. Now, estrogen, it's not just that it does. I like to call her the diva. I like to call
that.
The diva hormone.
Yes, I like to call. Let's say progesterone and estrogen are twin sisters, right?
Okay.
So estrogen is the extrovert, and progesterone is the introvert.
Nice. I like this too.
Okay, so let's start with the diva. So why is she the diva? Because when she's coming in and she's building at the front half of the cycle and she peaks around ovulation time, she brings in with her a whole host of neurotransmitters.
Okay, what's the nutrient? Okay.
So these are messengers, chemical messengers in the nervous system for the brain. Okay, so she brings in like serotonin, which makes you happy, dopamine, which motivates you,
Big fan of
acetylcholine.
estrogen.
Exactly. So
We want to hang out with this diva.
yes, it makes our brain sharper, right? And plus, it brings in oxytocin as well, which is a hormone that makes you feel connected. It's the love hormone. So estrogen is bringing in all these with her.
Making a T-shirt of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll
She's the
get one.
diva, right? So that's estrogen. Okay. Now progesterone starts building in the second half of the cycle. Now progesterone is the introvert. She's the sweet, soft sister, right? So she starts building and she peaks around day, say, 19, 20 till the end of the cycle. And when she peaks, she's preparing for the uterine lining to be shed. Okay. Now the thing with progesterone and estrogen, they have different personalities, right? So they have different lifestyle needs. So progesterone, she wants us to slow down. She wants us to eat more carbs. That's why we have those cravings.
Yeah, I am progesterone though.
Yes.
I like estrogen, but I'm damn
Yes.
it.
While estrogen, she doesn't like a lot of glucose. She wants us to be insulin sensitive. So they're different, and they have different personalities, and they do different things. So that's basically estrogen and progesterone. Now testosterone, she only comes in.
Oh, I like that she's a she.
She's a she.
They're all she. Testosterone, she's the one that gives us our libido, or gives us our motivation, and she comes in only in one part of the cycle,
Which is
ovulation.
Ovulation, of course.
Of
horny hormone.
course,
That's right.
exactly.
Hang on a
The
second.
horny hormone.
The horny hormone.
Exactly. But it's not only libido. She gives us motivation. She gives us drive. So when in perimenopause we are losing these hormones, it's obviously affecting our drive,
Yeah, everything.
yes.
Can I dive in there and ask about the introverted sister? Because I also know that progesterone is also responsible relating to muscle mass and not just testosterone. I mean, it's a very complicated
Yes.
makeup, isn't it? They
Absolutely.
haven't just got those jobs. They have other jobs as well. And I
Yes.
assume that's when they all work together.
Yes, estrogen is responsible to keep your joints how can I say, supple? Yes, there's a lot these hormones do. As a
Okay.
whole.
In fact, when I was I was doing my specialization, so already a gynecologist, doing my gynae training. When we had our menopause module, which was 2 pages.
Oh,
2 pages.
interesting.
Yes, this is in the era of the world, the WHI, the Women's Health Initiative, where there was this big trial that was it had a bad reputation, and what had happened was the media got hold of the results quickly, and there was like false advertising on this research, and we knew that HRT was good for most women. But because of all of this, because of the bad reputation it had, women didn't like it, and we had to do lots of counseling, and then we were put off giving HRT. So we had 2 statements. In menopause, there is low estrogen. Low estrogen gives hot flashes. Therefore, if she has hot flashes equals low estrogen, give her estrogen. Okay? You give HRT for the smallest dose for the shortest time possible. Those were the 2 mantras that we had to abide by. Now we know it's different. Now we know that estrogen is important for every cell in the body. Okay? Estrogen is anti-inflammatory. So when we have these waning levels of estrogen, we are losing our anti-inflammatory effect. And so going one step back, what happens with perimenopause, because what Mari described is the beautiful cycle. during our more fertile years, so in the 20s and early 30s, our cycle is like this. We have a peak of estrogen, and there's ovulation, tiny peak of testosterone, and then there's progesterone rise, and then there's a crash of progesterone because there has been no fertilization. So the lining then is shed. And during these fertile years, we are copy paste, copy paste, copy paste. Okay, so every cycle, every month is the same. You know what you're going to feel. You know that you're going to feel irritable or not. Perimenopause is a different ballgame, because what is happening is the ovaries are packing in. The ovaries do not want to release the eggs anymore. But the brain keeps on stimulating the ovaries. And it keeps on pushing that stimulating hormone at a higher and higher and higher and higher level until the ovary goes, oh, well, there you go, have it. and then...
Exactly, yes.
And then there's big spikes of hormones. So we get fluctuations.
Take care and enjoy good health. Browns, empowering wellness by providing convenient and innovative health services.
Periods are part of the game, but they don't have to throw you off your game. Try new Always Platinum for up to 100% leak protection, faster absorption, dry feel, and it's more cushiony, so you can focus on your game. It's a new Period, always.
Hang on a second. I love the description there. But I just want to come back to that, because no one is it. I mean, I'm going to come to you in a second, Angel, because I'm actually, even though we've done many shows about menopause, I'm still understanding this in this context for the first time. So what you're saying actually is not, it's just a depletion. It's actually spikes
There's
as
high
well
highs.
as.
Of course. There's high highs and low lows. Yes. No, it's not just a smooth downward right. No.
Progesterone.
I like Probably was that easy.
Estrogen is all over, ups, downs, and that's
Yes, because
what-
progesterone is smoother.
Yes.
But estrogen, it's crazy.
That's why
And
she's the diva.
Yes, she's the diva.
Yes. And actually, someone did go through the hassle of mapping hormones, because women come to me asking me for hormones, right? Oh, because my hormones are all over the place. I know, love. I know.
Yeah.
But they ask for hormone levels. When am I going to test for your hormones? Which time of day? Which day? Because it's going to change. And someone actually did this. They mapped hormones, and it is a big zigzag. It's up
Yes,
and
up,
down.
down.
It's chaos. It's absolutely chaos.
I think
Okay.
that's really worth knowing that it's chaos.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's
I describe
turbulent.
it like puberty in reverse.
It is puberty in reverse.
Because
and it
nobody's
takes-
understanding
yes.
you. You're irritable. Nobody's getting me. You don't know if you're horny or not. Yes. But yeah.
That face, huh?
But it's
That
true.
face.
Very expressive.
True, exactly. But the fluctuations is why we feel the brain fog. It's why we feel a panic attack. It's why we feel the cognition, the feeling that is weird, that something's not right. It's the fluctuations. Okay.
And we're going to come to all the symptoms in just a moment. I just have one last question before we move on. Why do the ovaries pack up? Because it sounds to me like the ovaries are to blame for all of this. I mean, if there's like the sisters and then there's the other sister, the ovaries are like the wicked witch of the West right now because they've given up.
Well, I'd like to say so that you can have sex without contraception, but I see it's a show about where I'm not
Well, actually,
talking about
yes.
sex.
Vagina. It always comes back to that with you, Chiara. No, in fairness, but I mean, I can anticipate. I can anticipate you saying, well, because we get to the age where it's actually our bodies are not functioning well enough to be able to have children. I guess that's the answer. But I always wondered why we would have this depletion, why our bodies just don't
And
just
the thing
keep going.
is that we have some of these hormones that are produced by the adrenals, but
Yes,
it's the ovary
this is as well. It's a problem because we're stressed. There's a lot of stress. So the adrenals, when we get to perimenopause, are kind of tired out, producing cortisol, right? Because there's a handover. So there should be a handover from the ovaries to the adrenals to produce a little bit of estrogens, right? But the adrenals say, hey, I've been making cortisol for you for these past 20 years. Leave me alone. Now I'm not making.
Okay, so you've just brought in the adrenals and cortisol, and we're going to come back to this because this is part of the question that I want to come to about the psychological impact as well, because I know cortisol is not good for us necessarily. Adrenals, we'll come to that in just a second. I just want to ask, before we move on to the next question, were you aware of this?
I was not, and it was bewildering. I was waking up and going through all that, madness going in your head while your husband or partner is snoring away, and I have to continue functioning for the next day, and I can't sleep, or all these different pains, which I'm used to pain for other reasons, but it just was too frequent, or these huge emotions or huge panic, and I need to function. So because Chiara is my gynae, so she explained this, and it helps because
You've heard this before?
Yes, because she told me. That's why this program is so good, because once you get to know, okay, so I'm feeling this because, and then I start I'll start telling myself, because this is going on because my body is going through this. So I'm not going mad. So this is normal. So it's okay. And once you accept it,
absolutely,
then it relaxes you a bit. It eases off some of it. It takes the edge off.
Absolutely. And I think that's why on the menopause show, one of the guests said that perimenopause is worse than menopause because like me, I went 2 years with acute pains in my legs and my joints without diagnosis. And I thought I was going lunatic. I thought I was going absolutely mad. But the way that you've just described that between the pair of you, I've never heard this before. I've never heard about the Diva twin sister and the introvert and then the role of testosterone. I actually didn't know any of this. And I want to say a massive thank you because even though I passed through that journey, hearing it again
of course
is so cool.
Yeah.
Because now I understand a lot better.
That it's normal. And other women are going through it. And,
absolutely.
And when having someone tell you that it's normal, especially someone so you studied this, it's not just a whim, helps you calm down. There's a sisterhood, everyone's going through it, and I'm not going mad.
Absolutely.
Or I'm not sick, because you might think you have something.
Well, now I want to come to the when. Before we go into the what and the symptoms, I want to come back to the when, because the when has radically changed this idea of perimenopause. We were just having a conversation when we did our first menopause show 2 years ago, and we were talking about perimenopause being 1 year. And I researched that show really well.
Mm-hmm.
And it was 1 year. It was 1 year before you lose your period. Now, of course, you don't know that you're going to lose your period.
Exactly.
So you have that added complication as well, is actually you don't know that you're going to lose your period. And unlike most people's perception, the periods don't just go, oh, let's just fade out. They're like, come on, boys, like you just said, because those spikes, they're going, come on, let's give it a last push. Let's just see what we can do. So before we get into that bit, let's go into the when. And I'm asking you, when did you, Angel, notice symptoms? And then I'm going to ask these ladies to give a professional.
I think it was early mid 40s for me. It started then. So, and I'm still going through it. I'm still perimenopausal, so that's been almost 6 years, at least. Yes.
And what were the symptoms that you?
Again, I have these panic attacks. I'm not sure why I'm sad. There's no reason, but I didn't have them in my periods. I was never grumpy in my periods or any of that. And all of a sudden, now I'm having this, and I can't get out of it. I am good with myself. I reason things out. I have stuff to do. I'm busy. and I could not. I just can't get out of it. So that's where I started.
On one of the shows that I had with Deirdre Fruger, I figured that I'm going to be really honest, as a woman, as an ultra runner that I was when I hit menopause, I thought to myself, it was never going to happen to me. I thought, I'm going to be fit, I'm going to be healthy. It'll never get me, because I thought that's how you could avoid it. But essentially, it's going to get everybody. And so when I realized that, I got Deirdre Fruger onto the show, because I figured if an Olympian can't outrun menopause, nobody can. And she told me that, just as you said there, she said that the one symptom that just was absolutely so impactful and so painful for her was the depression.
Yeah.
And it makes sense from what you guys have been saying. I'm going to come to you for any sort of clinical answer to when we can expect this to happen. When does perimenopause start? I'm going to ask you, Chiara, to kind of reiterate what you just said, because I'm fine with repetition throughout this show.
Yeah.
Because I think we need to understand this really clearly.
Yes, absolutely. I also do not want to forget to explain about the effect of estrogen on all the organs in the body. Okay, because that explains symptoms of perimenopause.
Well, let's go back to that one, because we're talking about these gorgeous twin sisters. What does that twin sister, the Diva, do?
Because we used to think it's hot flashes.
Yeah.
When you have low estrogen, it affects the vascular system, and then you have this flash of, like, you feel hot and goes away in seconds, but then you get sweaty, cold sweat. But estrogen also, there's receptors in the bladder. So when there's waning levels of estrogen and depletion, you start getting irritability in the bladder and the feeling that there's a UTI, but there isn't. So you go off into the toilet and there's a bit of urgency, and you think, oh, I'll keep an eye on that because I think it goes away. And then it comes back and it's not a UTI. But you get antibiotics because nobody gets tested. No, I shouldn't say nobody, but people don't.
Hang on a second.
Usually
Sorry.
don't.
Sorry. Let me come back to this one. I think there's going to be a lot of people that relate to this.
Yep.
So when you're heading into perimenopause and your estrogen levels are heading up and down, playing around, doing this, there's a good chance that you're going to feel like you need to go to the loo. You're going to need to pee, but it's not a UTI. You might get discomfort. You might get irritated.
Correct.
Yes.
Correct. So there's,
So good to know, right?
Yeah.
So
You start
This is my
understanding-
last 5 years just explained.
Yes.
So no antibiotics, please. Okay. Anyone who is feeling like this, they need to get tested before taking antibiotics. We know that antibiotics do have an effect on the gut microbiome. There's a risk of depression following taking antibiotics. And in menopause with recurrent UTIs and a lot of antibiotics, and I'll get to this, but treatment with vaginal estrogen actually decreases mortality by 73%.
Wow.
Not 10, not 20.
Sorry, say that again.
73%.
Say that again.
Okay, so recurrent UTIs. Okay, so lots of UTIs. That leads to a lot of antibiotics, difficult treatment, lots of investigations, even sepsis. Okay, sometimes sepsis, which is infection in the blood then. It leads to a higher incidence of mortality. Just by a woman, a menopausal woman, taking a vaginal estrogen cream, it decreases the risk of mortality by 73%.
That's not
73.
even a joke.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
73.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have...
This is recent statistics that I read and I was like, what?
We have recently talked about this estrogen cream, and we're going to come to that a bit later on as well.
Yes.
Just stick with us because this is a big topic.
Bladder.
But if you think that you have a UTI and you're in perimenopause, menopause, don't immediately assume it's a UTI.
Correct.
Because there's a good chance it's not.
That's good to know.
So drink cranberry water, it should settle. Just doing a dipstick is not always enough. So I would send the urine to the lab because that will give us if there is infection or not. Okay? Because if there's infection, and I would love to tell you the causes of the UTIs, that are so preventable, like douching, like showering and putting the shower head against one's genitals to try and wash properly. But we're pushing water inside the urethra, which is a tiny short tube that goes into the bladder, which should be sterile, but yet we are trying to wash in that way, and we're pushing water that's coming from all the pipes and the water tank up there with foreign
be done.
bacteria.
I feel like this is a public health
Yes.
service that Chiara is doing right now.
Don't do it.
Don't do it. No douching. No.
No douching.
Yes, no.
Because I ask, how do you wash? And people are going, normally. What's normally? Like, oh, how do you wash? And it's not a difficult question. Okay. Banyu, no shower. And you'd be surprised how many people think that just by doing that, because they want to feel clean, it's not helping. That little pipe, it's only 2-3 centimeters long.
I knew we'd come back to talking about the vagina.
But she
Okay.
has to,
In
right?
anatomical reasons.
Okay.
Okay, this is far away.
So what
But
else
that
is
is
the
one.
estrogen doing with our organs?
Vagina. It does change the vagina, the vaginal skin, and the vulva. Okay, the labia resorb. So the vulva changes. The labia becomes smaller, tinier labia. Okay, so usually is the small lips, the labia minora, they tend to get smaller. The skin gets thinner. Okay, we call this in medicine atrophy, and sex becomes difficult, becomes painful unless lube is used, and there could be tears and fissures. So that's to do with the vaginal skin and the vulvar skin. The bladder irritability, the bladder pipe. There's changes there. There's a medical condition called urethral caruncle, where we see the lining of inside the pipe of the urethra. You can actually see it everting out towards the vagina. This is not painful. Women out there don't even know they have it, but it causes urinary frequency and irritation. Just a bit of vaginal estrogen will sort it out, and
Okay.
it's all
We're coming back
reversible.
to this vaginal estrogen a bit
Moving
later.
up the body.
Okay.
Oh
Wow. Oh wow.
Because it's anti-inflammatory. Yeah. So we get aches and pains. Mari said about keeps the joint supple. Frozen shoulder, hallmark typical of perimenopause. So when we don't have enough estrogen, we have inflammation. And we have inflammation in the body. There is silent inflammation that is happening. Okay, the bones, bone health. We know that without estrogen, we have osteoporosis, and the heart health, so important, apart from the brain and the cognition. But in menopause, because of the status of no female hormone, so technically like a man, we have a high risk of heart attacks, and heart attacks are fatal. 2 out of 3 women who have a heart attack die because we don't appreciate pain. Women, we have pain monthly all the time. So we're like, oh, it's nothing. Where a man, if they feel pain, they're going to seek medical advice. So they're more likely to survive a heart attack. But this is the state. This is what our hormones are doing to us. They're helping us. They're protecting us. So without them, then obviously we have all these
She
issues.
really is a diva, isn't she?
Yes.
She is.
Oh, and estrogen also thickens the lining. Okay, so there are the negative, the bad stuff that is related to estrogen.
Thickening the lining.
Thickens the lining of the uterus.
Okay.
So anyone who is taking HRT, they need to balance the hormone. So progesterone thins the lining, estrogen thickens the lining. So clinically, if someone is giving me a history in perimenopause and they're bleeding more, so longer bleeds and closer, so shorter cycles is low progesterone. The ovulation is not happening, so the second peak, like Mari explained, is not there. So that means relatively higher progesterone. Stress, because we are exposed to stress all the time, lifestyle. Cortisol, which is a stress hormone, depletes progesterone. It strips it away. So then again, we have an imbalance, and we need these two divas to be in balance, not imbalanced. Because we have too much estrogen, we have longer, heavier bleeds. Okay. Even the blood we lose, the menstrual blood is different as well. It's darker and sludgier.
There is a lot of medical information here. There's a lot to take on board. And I would suggest that for anybody watching the show, go back, listen to it again, play this over again. But I think I'm going to ask you ladies to kind of simplify what we've said so far so that we can just recap and then get the she-worders to go back and listen to this once again.
Mhm.
So to simplify, we've got 2 twin sisters.
Yes. We have 3 because there's testosterone as well.
Oh, she's a twin as well, is she?
She's another
there.
sister.
They're
Another
now
triplet.
analysing the
So
personality.
if you have a party, estrogen, right? She's there. She's jumping on the tables, right? She's partying.
Like her.
So-
I like her so much.
estrogen.
Testosterone is like, let's keep this party going.
Amazing.
And progesterone is in the corner. I want to go home.
Yes. I am a bit of all of the 3. Not all the time.
I think I'll be in the corner looking and
I see.
So
Waiting
those
for
are
the
your
moment to
3
dance.
hormones.
So we have those 3 hormones that all interact with each other at different times.
Yes.
And then what's interesting that between you've just said, and I think I just want to summarize, is that when we head into menopause, it's not a gentle depletion. Progesterone wants to go home and get into bed and have a nice cup of cocoa, but Diva estrogen is like fighting it out until the last. She's right there on the table. Come on, guys! And testosterone is egging her on. Have we got that right?
Kind of, yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
but
that's it.
that is, I think for me, that explains, and I don't know about for you as well, that explains why perimenopause is not a smooth ride.
No.
Because it's doing this.
Yes.
Yeah.
Not doing this. It's
No.
going
Every
all over
day
the
is
shop.
Up and down.
different.
Mhm.
Exactly.
Yes.
Indeed.
Exactly. Every day is different. So you it's turbulent.
Every
It's
day
very
is different.
turbulent.
And this is starting somewhere in our early mid-40s.
Even earlier, I
Earlier.
think.
I had
Yes.
it earlier.
Yes. And as time goes by, I think it's getting we're seeing
Earlier.
earlier.
Wow.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
Do you think
Okay.
it's because of lifestyle? Is it?
I think so. Stress mostly.
Insulin resistance
We're going to come
problem.
back to this because I want to talk about this cortisol and about the stress and also about the psychological impact. We're going to start talking about symptoms,
Mm.
okay? Because I think one of my frustrations, you mentioned before about hot flushes. I didn't only recently realize they're called flashes, not flushes.
Flash.
Flash.
Like a flash.
I was a hot flush everywhere. Do you know what I mean?
Right, yeah.
I've never had a hot flash. I've never flashed hot
Anything.
anywhere. Absolutely.
You're lucky.
Thank you. I've
Yeah.
also
Don't
never
complain
had.
of
I've
flashes.
never had night sweats either. I think maybe once, maybe possibly, but it's not something that I've gone through. But what I'm going to tell you what my personal experience is, and then we're going to talk about the symptoms, because now we think that there's probably plus 65, etc. And you've mentioned symptoms I wasn't even aware of. How did I know that I had something going on? It was because despite having run this 126 kilometers and trained for 168 kilometers, I suddenly got muscle and joint pain like I could not explain. And when I got up in the middle of the night to go to the loo with the irritated bladder, and I put my feet on the floor, my feet were agony. It was so painful. And I would crawl to the bathroom like an old woman. Then I felt fatigue. And then finally, butt sludge. And we'll come back to butt
You
sludge.
have to say it.
I do. I'm going to keep
wanted
saying it.
to.
We'll come back to butt sludge as one of the symptoms that I think we really should address
Yes.
very seriously, because it is, what is it? The gut is your second brain. We'll talk about that in a minute. And it's not, look, I went to doctors and I was misdiagnosed for 2 years. And this is not a criticism of doctors. It is a acknowledgement that so little is understood about what we're going through.
What
I mean,
women
it's
go through.
mind-blowing.
What women go through.
What women
it
go
has to
through.
be specified because if you're studying men, they don't go through that. I mean, I was shocked. You said just 2 pages about this.
2 pages, yes, yes. And just I really wanted to understand hormones. And this is where I started reading more and more and more. And with every research that comes out, I'm like, oh, So that's what that was. That's because obviously I'm living perimenopause now.
Mm-hmm.
And when patients tell me I'm not recognizing my body, it's like I don't recognize this body anymore. Like, oh yes, oh yes, oh, and ADHD, neurodivergence, there's a link with hormones as well. So neurodivergent females don't do well on cyclical hormones, and this is also why in perimenopause we're having more and more ADHD diagnoses. I was diagnosed at 41 with ADHD. And this was because of the anxiety I was feeling. And I started becoming, I think, the progesterone, the irritable, the introvert self, and full-blown ADHD. I mean, looking back from childhood, it made sense. But it wasn't apparent until perimenopause, because of the fluctuation of hormones.
Can I just ask if we can, and we probably will never get to the 65 symptoms, but can we just throw into the middle of the table just symptoms and some of the more unusual ones? So let's throw into the table the usual ones, the prime suspects: hot flashes,
Joint pains,
sweats.
I think it's
tinnitus.
the brain fog, which is one of the most common.
Most complained about. So
Yes.
brain fog,
Brain fog,
palpitations, anxieties,
I've had all of these.
panic attacks,
Yes.
and then you go to the GP, and unless they explore perimenopause, you're going to get an SSRI, which does help, but it's not going to treat perimenopause.
SSRI being an antidepressant.
Yes.
So let's just put them down here. So we've got brain fog, we've
Brain
got
fog.
anxiety,
Inability to focus, you can't,
The
insomnia, fatigue.
insomnia, because insomnia is a big one.
Yes, because then
Like
it affects
your brain is going in like in circles, and you can't
Yes.
get out of that loop.
Yes,
So
looping thoughts. That's another one.
Oh, well, okay. So we've got fatigue.
Joints, frozen shoulder.
Change in body odor.
Yes.
Oh yes,
Swallowing.
Wow.
It's weird sensations on the skin. So for me, that was weird. The shocks,
Yes.
like tremors, and like, oh, did I just feel an earthquake? There's like vibrations on the skin. Dry eyes. The skin feels like
Tight.
stretched and tight. Yeah.
Pain during sex and dryness during
Yes.
sex.
Yes.
In my case, the joint, the pain, and so on and so forth. But the pain in the feet was
Plantar
because
fasciitis.
collapsed metatarsals. Because one of the things that happens rapidly when you hit perimenopause and menopause is the depletion of collagen accelerates exponentially.
Wow.
And so when I went to an orthopedic surgeon and I said, my feet are agony, he looked right at me and said to me, you are in perimenopause or menopause, aren't you? And I said,
Wow.
how do you know?
He
guy.
recognized that.
And he said, because the collagen that holds your metatarsals together has collapsed and your feet are now spreading. So there's a whole ton of other things, that is related to collagen. So we also have change of skin, change of hair.
Yes.
Collagen is the blood vessels as well.
As well.
So-
Nice. Interesting.
Flashes.
There you go. Also, let's put this one on the table, the pouch. And weight gain. Yeah, you see how we
My
suddenly-
tummy,
the
yes.
pouch.
Yes.
The pouch.
Call it the
Or-
pouch.
Cortisol.
Yes.
Belly
Okay.
fat.
Cortisol,
Yes.
And estrogen.
And estrogen.
Okay. This we're going to come back to cortisol, because cortisol sounds like the bad boy that keeps making a bit of an appearance here.
No diva there. Huh?
No diva. Bad boy, you hear me say. But the pouch, I mean, the
Yes,
pouch is...
definitely.
and bingo wings. No, it's true.
Yes.
I thought it was fishmonger wife.
I think everyone has their own thing, but bingo wings.
I'm going to lift my arms up, but yeah.
No, I
But
know.
it's this is very, very
Annoying.
Collagen.
very
Yes.
annoying, but it's
Yes.
very, very typical. Anything else that we haven't
muscle,
covered?
gaining muscle mass is harder in menopause. Low libido.
Yes.
I forget that
Of
one.
course.
Yes.
Of course.
Anything else we've not thrown on the table?
Sounds
there's
fun, doesn't it?
Oh, yes. So much. Yes.
Yes, amazing.
glorious.
Amazingly fun.
Well, what we haven't touched on, because I was about to say, well, wait till you get to menopause, because of course the one thing in menopause that's a bonus is you don't get periods. But as
Yes.
we've just said, in perimenopause, you're likely to have Heavier
periods.
periods.
Yes.
I mean, it really is a bit crap, isn't it?
Yes.
It
and if it's heavier, that's the influence of estrogen. And there we go. Estrogen thickens the lining. Thicker lining. Why is it thick? Is it because there's hyperplasia? Hyperplasia is hyperactive lining, which is also a precursor to cancer
Okay.
of the uterus.
glorious.
So someone who's late 40s having heavier periods, they need to have rashkament or a biopsy of the lining to see is
Okay.
it something dangerous or not.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. But I think, I mean, definitely if you're having irregularly heavy periods, that's something to watch out for, isn't
Yes,
it?
of course.
Okay.
But they do
Always.
get longer cycles as well.
Longer cycles as well.
Cycle, by cycle, I mean from day 1 to day 1. Okay, so you missed periods.
Okay.
Between periods, again, months, 2 3 months.
Okay.
Ideal Standard, celebrating 90 years of success in the local market, exclusively from Satariano.
Something about the way you bounce makes me want to keep you around my mind. My mind. Something about the way you sound shakes me up and makes me get down on my.
Welcome to Maison Perrier. Discover Maison Perrier Chic and enjoy our new non-alcoholic cocktail range. Maison Perrier. Enjoy our new sophisticated mocktails.
Can we just for 1 second talk about this butt sludge? Because this is one of the symptoms that I don't think anybody really addresses. Not
need to
familiar?
drink. No. So go for it.
Good laugh, isn't it?
Because I found out that I was in menopause through Facebook.
Wow.
It came up with a list of symptoms and said,
Oh.
are you experienced? Yes. Because I had kept going to the doctor and saying, this is happening, this is happening, this is happening. But because I was on the pill, I was still getting my period. Nobody asked me. And again, I'm not criticizing doctors. I had some great doctors, but it didn't occur to anybody that a late 40s woman might be having these symptoms because she was in perimenopause or menopause. One of the symptoms that I had was butt sludge. And you know how many times I'm going to say this, but it's because when the hormones change, the gut changes, is affected, or it can change. Am I right? It can be affected. The gut bacteria can be affected by the hormonal change, and therefore everything that's going through changes as well.
Progesterone has an effect on the gut, yes. So you are on the pill.
Yeah.
HRT is a tiny dose of the pill.
Yes.
So there are women who are taking the pill and they don't know they're in menopause.
Yes. That's what I was just saying. Exactly.
1% of women, so even premature menopause. So if I have 100 patients who are on the pill, one of them is in menopause and she doesn't know, even at a younger age.
Wow.
So could be going through these symptoms like I was and not knowing.
Because the symptoms is because of the fluctuation of hormones.
Yes,
So
but you see,
were already
but this
taking
is
hormones.
yes, but I didn't get the hot flushes. I didn't
No,
get.
because you're already on hormonal treatment.
But what I got was a change in whatever was happening in my gut, and bowel movements were just
You know,
not
normal.
anything that I recognized.
I have a feeling there is more to the change to the perimenopause than we actually know.
So far.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Still. That's why you need research. Because you need to know. You need to tell women what is normal and what is not. So then you check if it's not.
But you said something, Angel, and I think this is a really, really good way of looking at this, is that if you don't recognize your body anymore, which I didn't, I felt like my body had been stolen by aliens and something else had been replaced. But if you don't recognize your body, whether psychologically, whether physically, then you need to investigate.
Yes.
Are we not saying that if you don't
Oh,
recognize your
absolutely.
body?
You have to. You at any point in your life, you should be checking. You should know your body, know the lumps and bumps and your routines and everything. So when it's not normal, you check.
But align that with the brain fog and this sort of kind of different way of that your brain is working as well. It's quite often difficult to pinpoint that. And that's why I'm saying the easiest way that I think it is to explain rather than check for bumps or whatever, is just if you don't recognize your body, if you are experiencing something at the moment, whether it be psychological, whether it be your emotions, whatever, if you don't recognize yourself, it could be that you're in change.
Yeah.
Yes,
for sure.
Yes.
So go to your gynae and get yourself checked.
Yeah,
Blood
absolutely.
tests, everything.
And it's not just the hormones, because I'm thinking about this pill. It's everything else. It's everything else. So it's not it's almost like things were hidden with you taking the pill. But if everything else that is not addressed, like other supplements, like nourishing your body, because it's not just the ovaries.
Yeah.
It's not just
And
the ovaries.
also long-term taking pill long-term affects the gut microbiome.
Indeed.
As well.
Indeed.
Oh, I didn't know that one.
Yes.
So if you take the pill,
Yes.
what happen for a long time?
Yes, it affects the gut microbiome, like antibiotics, like medication.
Oh, I see.
We're so sensitive, that gut microbiome. So we also need to nourish the gut microbiome.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and the gut microbiome is important to metabolize hormones too.
Yes.
The liver and the gut.
Yes.
So it's not
circle.
only so basically our body could be producing hormones, right? But because there's something not right with the gut or the liver and the hormones aren't metabolized, they can't be used.
Wow.
And then you get excess, and then you get the excess hormones that are not used or can't metabolize, stored in the belly fat. And that's where you
We
get.
are a tiny bit complicated as women, aren't we?
Well,
yes.
that's nature.
Yes,
This is why
nature.
we're talking about.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
I want to stick with you for a second, Murray, and that is because you keep mentioning this evil, sinister cortisol. But we do know that when you head into perimenopause, just as you mentioned, this down, this kind of depression and lethargy and so on and so forth hit you, it hits everyone.
Yes.
Let's talk about this psychologically and talk about cortisol, because psychologically there's a lot of challenges going on. You have to face the fact that your body is heading into a new era. And I think for a lot of women, and for me, I thought I could outrun it. I thought I was going to beat this one. And I had to then say, okay, no, Trudes, you're not going to, because no woman can outrun this one. And I think this is where we've had a lot of shame, a lot of embarrassment. Women are aging. It's the change. And it means that that fertility era of a woman is over. And that's already a lot to deal with. And then we've got cortisol. Tell me about this. What's happening psychologically? What's happening psychologically in perimenopause and menopause?
The thing with cortisol is it's not the enemy, right? It's the body's way of reacting to stress. It's in the past, when we were in the caves, kind of, it was the hormone of flight or fight. So if there was a tiger or whatever, you get stress, you get cortisol, and you run, right? So nowadays what's happening is we're stressed with other things, be it you're scrolling, you're watching news or work, and your body produces cortisol because you're stressed. But the brain doesn't know that you're not being chased by a lion, right? So it expects you to move, but we're not moving.
Yeah. It makes sense.
Right? So then it gets stored as belly fat.
If we got up and ran away from our scrolling,
yeah, you when you're stressed,
actually filter out.
You have to use it. It's the movement. Yes,
It's important.
yes.
Yay.
And then
That makes, I didn't know this.
I didn't
at
know
all,
this.
At all. But
Sorry,
it should be common knowledge, this one.
Right. I mean, this is because
Should
this
be.
is this is lifestyle. Hang on a
Yes.
second.
You stress, you feel it.
Yes.
Yes,
Jittery.
and also
jittery, yeah.
Move. and
And this is what's tanking our hormones more than they should be. Because most women, right, in their 30s and their 40s, they're juggling a lot of things. They have kids, they have family, they have a full-time job. In your 30s, you can deal with it. Then you come in screeching in your 40s, you know?
Screeching.
Exactly. Rushing women syndrome. And you're depleted.
You have that. I'm the rushing woman with
Yeah.
the hair going back like this.
The adrenals are constantly making cortisol, and it's not only the adrenals, there's DHEA, which is the precursor.
No, you're going to need to break this one
Okay,
down
so
because I'm still
there's-
back with the adrenals right now.
Okay, so you have DHEA, which is a chemical that's the precursor for cortisol, progesterone, and testosterone. So it gets used up, and first goes cortisol. So if you're stressed, DHEA is being used up to make cortisol. So a little is left to make
So
progesterone.
like you're having ingredients and first you're building
Exactly.
cortisol. So we have this, I don't
Exactly.
know, a lump and first
Yes.
we manufacture cortisol. Right. Now
Yes.
I'm getting it.
Yes.
And then.
So this is one of the reasons why women are going into perimenopause early,
Oh, goodness me.
okay, and also with a lot of symptoms.
Okay, sorry. Okay. Mind blown.
Yeah. So yes.
So let me recap on this and let me see if I've got this right. So I'm talking very, very basically here so that I can
Keep up.
translate it.
Mhm.
Back in the day,
Mhm.
when we sat in caves and were chased by tigers,
Yeah.
the cortisol would be what would trigger a fight or flight. But in order to process that cortisol, we would get up and we would run or we would actively move.
Yes.
But because now our fight or flight is being triggered by maybe even scrolling or watching the news whilst we're stationary,
Yes.
there's no way to process this cortisol. So it's actually sitting within our body because we're not processing it out, which means it's hitting and it's then hitting the hormones, depleting our estrogen, progesterone, testosterone,
Progesterone, testosterone, yes.
serotonin,
Serotonin,
because that also comes from the adrenal
because
gland.
then there's another thing. There's a hormonal hierarchy, right?
Ooh.
So
Of course.
So-
there is. Why not?
so basically, you have, because hormones don't work in silo. They're
Silo meaning.
alone.
Okay.
They affect each other.
Okay.
Okay, and some are more powerful than others.
Ooh. Which are the bad
So
boys?
you have, it's not bad. It's
Oh, I
just,
mean, like,
yeah,
big
it's
boys
like,
then.
yeah, oxytocin is one of the most powerful.
And this one
that's
does
the love
what?
hormone.
Ooh.
Connection. It's the one that's released during labor. It helps us release milk during breastfeeding. It's the love hormone.
cuddling will
Cuddling,
produce
yes.
oxytocin.
Yes, yes.
Nice. I like this one.
And after is cortisol.
Okay.
And underneath it is insulin, and underneath is the sex hormones and the thyroid hormones. So cortisol is at the top. So when you have a lot of cortisol, it's going to affect insulin, and then insulin affects the sex hormones underneath.
Wow.
So one of the ways where I'd like women to know going in, starting their 40s, going to perimenopause, is these things, is one, to lower and manage stress.
That's a
It's
good
very
one.
important.
Yeah.
And
In
two,
order to not produce
because cortisol is going to affect insulin
Everything
just
else.
underneath. It's a cascade.
Mm-hmm.
And then it affects the sex hormones underneath.
Okay, this is cool because, okay, does this mean that if you have high levels of cortisol going on and you're not dealing with that cortisol, you're getting yourself stressed, getting into fight or flight, being triggered into stress, not dealing with that stress, it's going to it's going to influence your libido. It's going to,
Yes.
And
Yes.
your immune system.
Immune
You have
system.
also-
You mentioned
also
insulin as
immune.
well.
Yes, and insulin.
I'm sticking with the sex for a second.
Yeah, that's fine.
Just bear with me because we
Yes.
had this whole conversation about
Yes.
with Kiara, in actual fact, about why everybody enjoys going to Gozo to have sex because didn't we say that? Everybody gets on the boat to go to Gozo and they then come off the boat feeling a damn sight more fruity than they were when they got on the boat.
They know
Plug
what's
for the
happening.
Gozo ferry because that cortisol level is dropping as you are getting into a reduced stress situation. Now I get it.
It makes sense, right?
It does.
And and we can hack this to lower cortisol by taking ashwagandha,
Yes,
which is also, it increases
exactly,
testosterone.
testosterone.
Yes.
And reduces cortisol. But also you can try getting oxytocin hits. Now, oxytocin, unfortunately, has a short half-life, so you need to, along the day, get oxytocin hits by being grateful, yoga, being kind to somebody. There's a lot of things that give you oxytocin hits.
Is the oxytocin the one that is released if you hug someone for 20 seconds?
Yes, and sex. Yes, exactly.
Yes.
Laughing, watching a funny movie.
Oh,
Yes,
that's nice.
petting your dog. Like if you can't go to sleep at night, pet your dog because you release oxytocin and it calms everything down.
Amazing.
But if you're scrolling late at night,
No.
I've just seen something by Mel Robbins who says, put your phone in the bathroom when you go to bed. Do not put it by your bedside table. And this must be to do with cortisol.
Not only, in addition, it's the blue light.
Okay.
That's like when the sun goes down, these lights are affecting our circadian rhythm. Right? So we release melatonin when the sun goes down. Melatonin puts us to sleep.
Okay.
Now, because we're watching TV, we're scrolling, blue light is going into our retina, so the body doesn't get the signal.
It's going to sleep.
But the reason I ask is because this is just mind-blowing, but if you are in perimenopause and your sleep is aggravated and you're finding it more difficult to sleep, then definitely this is going to
so
hit
much
your
worse.
cortisol, push that back up again and cause you problems, no?
Yes.
You just...
Yeah, makes sense.
You
Need
need
a spike of cortisol in the morning. So those waking up earlier, 3 o'clock, that's because stress, high spike of cortisol. And naturally, we start producing cortisol in the beginning of the day. That's what Mari said about circadian rhythm. So we have this up and down waning effect in the morning and evening. So when we wake up, we should see sunrise. We should see light, bright light. So that also is triggering the ring. Yeah. And cortisol is needed in the beginning of the day to get us going so that we start our working day and get going. At the end of the day, we should see sunset. And when we see sunset and darkness, and even in the house, we should have low lighting, because that will then reduce cortisol, start producing melatonin. And this is why when we take ashwagandha, we take it in the evening to help almost like hack into that. Okay? Because this circadian rhythm is very important. And people who scroll, teenagers at night, 3 o'clock in the morning, scrolling this blue light, it's also associated with depression. So we're seeing younger...
And younger girls missing out their periods as well.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, let's come back to the psychological. What is psychologically also, just to overview, let me ask you.
Yeah.
Angel, when you acknowledged that you were heading into perimenopause, was there anything that you thought psychologically, okay, this is not fun?
Well, the fact that I could feel myself getting like into this deep hole, and I'm usually a happy person. I like laughing, and I can't get myself back. Then I thought it was not fun. Because for me, I couldn't be me. I couldn't laugh enough. I couldn't get out of this slump. I don't know. So that part really affected me, and feeling depressed in a way that I can't bring myself out of it. I can't. Nothing is working. Whatever you tell me is going to make it worse. That is not fun. That part, I feel. We need to talk more about that, so that women who are going through it at least don't feel alone. At least they don't feel like, she's the crazy woman. Oh, you're getting... you get teased by it. So you're not feeling good. People are telling you, you're having hot flashes, right? Menopause, and laughing at you. So you got these.
This is the irony, isn't it? That every single woman who makes it thus far is going to be affected by this.
Yes,
And yet
and
we feel so alone.
Yes, because no one's talking about it because of the shame, because people are teasing, mostly men, and they are the ones who make you feel like shit, basically. They're making you feel worse, and you're already not dealing with yourself well. Like when you have a child going through puberty, you can't really speak to them, you really don't know how to deal with them. Same thing, it's the next stage in life. It should not be shameful.
I'm going to come back to that thing that you said. I think it was you, Chiara, that called it reverse puberty.
Yeah, it is. And I feel, first off, we're blessed because we're still alive. What's the alternative? You're dead. You can't reverse this. This is going to happen. Like you said, women are living longer, and that should be celebrated. We're life. And at some point, women going through perimenopause and menopause, they have a role in society. They are going to help the next offspring, the next lot, the mothers who are bringing up. So their acquired knowledge is going to be passed on.
Yeah.
But we need to remove the patriarchal shame from this, from the aging.
Mm-hmm.
The shame of aging should be removed, and we should celebrate that we're still here.
As
And
a
Joe for
grandmother-
Prime Minister, I think.
That's the grandmother hypothesis, because I think there's only
There's
not
a
many
role.
species that women survive menopause.
Yeah.
It's us, there's a whale, and I'm not sure there's another one.
It's true. So there's
Yeah.
3
Yeah.
species.
It's because we pass on the wisdom.
Yes, and there's a
Other-
role for women.
Yeah.
So you, with your program, are sharing knowledge that you're acquiring and giving
the younger
us
ones.
for the next generation not to feel as bad as you did when you were going through it. That's amazing. That's a role of the woman.
Yes.
The mature woman should be celebrated, not anti-aging and ridiculing and
Yes.
trying to erase the traces of. You know what
Exactly.
I mean?
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed. But I think also that if you've made it thus far, that should also be celebrated. But also, I think it's worth acknowledging that if you make it thus far, every single woman on the planet that has been born, that will be born, if they make it to this point, will go through this.
Yes. So why
Yes.
shame her? Sorry.
Absolutely.
Why shame her?
Celebrated. It should
Yeah.
be celebrated.
Yeah.
Well, I do
Yeah.
believe in some cultures that
They do.
perimenopause
Yes.
and menopause is celebrated. It's a rite of passage.
Yes,
You've made
but
it this far.
nowadays Western culture does not. They are always bombarding us with, the
Look
anti-aging.
younger, yes.
Yes, trying to dress up like, I don't know. I'm dressed up like however I want, but it's not because I don't like my age. I love my age and I celebrate it. But I can be who I am now at age 50. I'm not 50 yet, but I'm saying I'm 50 because I want to be 50. I want to embrace the 50. It's going to be, it's half a century and they're all mine. And I want to be the funny, quirky,
Celebration.
yes, of 50. And when I'm 60, I'm going to celebrate 10 times more, 10 plus.
Absolutely.
And if I make it to 70 and however long, I want to celebrate more.
But then to add into the complexity of it is when you get to that point where you want to be celebrating and you want to be saying, I've made it thus far. I mean, quite frankly, there's so many opportunities in my life where I might not have quite made it. So I'm celebrating every single day. I'm like, I made it to 51. Hey, listen, that wasn't expected. But we also have this issue with the cortisol. We have the stress. We have the depression.
But if
we
you
have the
embrace it,
hormones.
because that is normal, if you embrace it, it takes the edge off. It reduces the cortisol and it relaxes you. If you're always, all the time, you're hearing, you should not look that, you shouldn't look like that. Don't let yourself go, blah, blah, blah. And all that, stress of not looking your age, hiding your age, that adds to the cortisol and that's just making
Yes.
it worse. I want to celebrate in a quirky way my 50 with all my wrinkles
Yes,
and my
wisdom.
What did you call the fat
pouch.
The pouch. They are all mine. I got them damn it. And I'll flick my hair. Damn
got them.
it. Yes, I earned them.
But this is an incredibly positive way of looking at things.
I want to
I
do.
love it. And I really love it. I think that that's inspirational for a lot of women that are going through this phase. But I also think where you've gotten to is a great place. It's hard to get there.
Yes.
It's
and
hard to get there when you don't recognize your body. It's hard to get there when
Yeah.
you're gaining weight and you can't explain it. And one of the problems with that, and I'm going to ask you ladies, is surely psychologically coming back full circle, is that you know that you're in perimenopause. If you don't know you're in it, you can't understand what's happening to you. So psychologically, it must, well, I know from experience, psychologically, it is soul destroying.
Yes.
Yes,
And
it
it's a
is.
relief knowing that,
Yes.
okay, I'm going through this, and there's shame as well. I used
Definitely,
to be
definitely.
ashamed to say perimenopause, but now I say it. I'm in perimenopause. I'm
That's
perimenopause.
right.
But there's an end to this. There's an end, and menopause is around the corner, and
And things
I'm
get better.
looking forward to menopause. And we shouldn't be afraid of menopause. Many women,
Exactly.
it's the most natural thing we are going to go through. It feels weird, but it's natural.
And we have a purpose after. There is a purpose. We had our fertility phase, our fertile phase, and then we have the nurturing phase of the next generation. We are sharing our wisdom.
Yes.
When I have my down phases, I feel really depressed. I still do. At some point, when I realize I catch myself, I tell myself, it's okay, this is gonna wash over. And that calms me down. Because it does, Something else is gonna happen, or the hormone is gonna go wherever it wants to go, and it will pass.
Dercos, recommended by dermatologists. Anti-hair loss protocol. A concentration of aminexil in a scalp treatment to reduce hair loss by 29%. And in a stimulating shampoo to boost volume by 48%. A potent synergy for hair 3 times stronger. Anti-hair loss protocol. By Dercos, the dermatological scalp and hair expert.
Can I ask something though? I mean, you talk about this fertility phase, and I mean, for some of us,
Not everyone.
perimenopause and menopause was actually a bit of a smack in the face because I wasn't able to have children. And I think for me, and I'm speaking out because I think there might be other women who identify with
course.
this. In actual fact, it was just, okay, Truths, that book is now closed. Not that there was much of a chance anyway, but that slim, tiny fragment that you were holding on to, that's done. It's over. You're never going to have children. And I think it's worth acknowledging, even if you have children, that's done. That part of your life is over.
Yes.
And for a lot of women, that gives them purpose. Their
Yes.
purpose has been tied to their role as a mother. And that is done. It's over. It's closed.
And you should allow yourself to mourn it. Mourning is not spoken about enough in our society. Letting yourself be washed by all of those feelings is what you should be doing. Mourn that part. It's fine. For me, you should go through the happy and you should go through the sad in the same way, and anger and all the other feelings. And mourning should be okay just as well.
Yeah.
Why should you hide that? Yes, you should mourn it. But there is a purpose for women, whether they have children or not, in the next stage, the menopause and after. There are purposes for women, So you look ahead. So this is the next one. When we were kids and we were going through puberty, we were scared because it's a change. We're always scared of change, because it's the unknown. It's from the known to the unknown. That's the worst part. But that's the research is that it's from the known to the unknown until you know, and then you know. I mean,
And you know.
and then you know. Wow.
Hey, can I ask a question? How do we explain to the people around us? Because you've just mentioned this grief, which I think is utterly appropriate. But how do we explain to the people around us what we're going through? I mean, first of all, it has to be self-awareness. You are incredibly, both of you ladies, we're in menopause.
Yeah, I'm post, yes.
You're post.
Yeah.
Oh, we have the whole thing at this table. You're
Yes.
post-menopause. And we're going to have a whole show about this as well, because I think that is something that if menopause and perimenopause is only just being explored, post-menopause, I don't think I've ever heard anyone talk about that. So we'll have a show.
We talked about it, that it's like menopause, but it's a term that is new as well, in the sense that after menopause you get post-menopause, but
The golden years.
yes,
We'll
the golden
have a
years,
whole
yes.
show for those golden years
Yes.
coming up. But we've got post-menopause, menopause, perimenopause at the table.
Yeah.
So we have post-menopause, menopause, perimenopause at the table. And for us, we know that we're in it. You guys are very well self-aware. You figured out that you were going through this phase. So let's say that somebody's listening to the show and going, okay, I need to go and see my doctor. And I'm assuming we'll come to what we can do towards the end of the show. But they've figured out now that they're in perimenopause. How on earth do you explain this to the people around you? Because I think one of the things that we've discussed on the table right now is that perimenopause is so unreliable and so volatile, which is why it's the crappiest part of all of our life cycle, because you just generally you don't know it, that you're in it. And even when you do, you can't explain what's going to happen. But what do we tell the people around us?
I just tell them what my gynecologist said. My hormones are all over the place. I'm sorry, right now my hormones are jumping up and down. Sorry. And that's it, because it's true. I like to be factual. If I'm feeling these uncontrollable feelings, what can I do? I mean, I'm just gonna explain. This is what's happening to me, and I'm gonna
It's gonna
try
take
not
a few years.
try not
settle
to take
down.
me too seriously at the moment, or I don't know, just be nicer to me, or give me space. I don't know, something like that.
Or try me.
Oh, bring it on.
Bring it on.
It's you and me standing there. We're the divas. Come on.
Oh, I say that to myself when I'm driving, like, perimenopause.
You and me both. I have to say, there was a period of time, just probably about 6 months to a year ago, when a particular HRT was very difficult to get hold of on our island here in Malta. And we kept looking for it, and it was pretty much running out because the supplier was transitioning. And I just turned round to the pharmacy and I said, of all the medications that you do not want to run out of, is HRT, because you have a lot of angry women that are driving around this island that are swearing at other people, and they are a force to be reckoned with.
Yes.
Okay. Look, I want to ask, before we come to what can we do, and this is our closing sort of idea, I just want to ask one question. For the love of Pete, why is there not more research and understanding of this phase of our lives? We started off the show saying we'd talk about this, but why? If every woman, I mean,
Yeah, patriarchy. Well, no, sorry, patriarchy. That's where it is. I mean, let's just.
But explain that,
because money is invested in issues that are hitting men, and research is conducted through men and women only lately.
Well, hang on a second. Let me throw something else into that, because if looking at a very clinical, excuse the pun, but also skeptical kind of angle, if every woman is going to go through, every single woman is going to go through this phase in their life, then surely if you can find something that's going to alleviate them, that's a marketing dream.
That's why you should have more women in positions of decision making to make the decisions. But if you don't have, if you have manners the way through,
marketing. It's, create
Yes,
something.
you think.
I don't think men realize what we go through
No.
until they experience it. Close up, when there's higher risk of divorce and separation at this
Yes.
age, high risk of suicide, female suicide. So I don't think men actually realize what
It
a whole
entails.
saga perimenopause is, because yes, you think there's a lot of money that could come out of this if
Yes.
um,
I'm sure they're wisening up. I'm sure, but it is in line with having more women in decision-making positions. That's when they started figuring it out, because they're there and telling them, I am going through this and it needs to be, because I'm going through it, I need to research it, because I, the researcher, am going through it. The man could not.
But we're talking about millennia of women going through this phase.
Yes. But did you look at the history of how many female researchers there were in the previous centuries?
And they
not
shut them up.
recognized.
Shut them up. Yeah.
And kicked aside and put to shame and blah, 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 and shut up.
Shut them up,
basically.
why?
Because they're women.
Ego.
Yes.
In the earlier days, science was only for men. I mean, and most studies clinically are still done on men.
Yes.
Yes, because there's no confounders, no hormones.
It's easier to do studies on men than women. So yes, most drugs are studied on men, and then the dose is kind of
Modified for
a
women.
smaller human.
We've
for-
talked
but
about
we're
this.
not.
We've talked about this on the show over and over and over and over and over and over again. And 1% of all medical
Yeah.
research and investment is spent on women issues outside of oncology, which means menopause, menstruation, PCOS, fibroids, endometriosis, all comes into this 1%, which is female specific. We've talked about all the statistics. We know that it's happening. Do you feel like there is, excuse the pun, change happening with regards to menopause, perimenopause, and postmenopause?
I think so. I mean, starting with Dr. Lisa Mosconi, who's studying the female brain in menopause. I mean, that's amazing. We have that information that we're actually seeing that our brain changes during menopause. So yes, more and more we're getting more studies in women.
I was delighted just recently at an international World Series race. I met a lovely lady who was standing there waiting for her husband to come in, and we got talking. And I said, "What do you do?" And she said, "Well, I'm a doctor, and I have a clinic, and have a research clinic." And I said to her, "You know what really frustrates me is that ultra running, which is what I've done over the last 5 years, there is one study that I could find, one study that was about menopause affecting ultra running." And this is a conversation I keep having with you because, Chiara, because obviously we talked about high rocks, we talked about all of these high level physical activities. Well, surely that's got to impact on the levels of your hormones as well. There's very little information available. So if you want to be active and seriously active into your perimenopause and your menopause, there's so little information that's available. The study that I found was about the insulin, the sugar levels between women in menopause and women who were not in menopause with ultra running.
Goodness.
Thank goodness this woman said, you know what, the focus of this clinic is to study women in menopause in relation to sport and different levels of
that's
sport.
good.
And I
That's
said, can
good.
I hug you?
Yes.
Can I hold you? Can we just do
Yes.
that whole
And
thing
I
that's going to
reduce my-
release?
I
those
reduce my
hormones?
cortisol level
Oxytocin.
and it is oxytocin.
Absolutely. Give me some oxytocin,
Yes.
girlfriend. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it is becoming, maybe because also our lifestyles are changing. Women are living longer. Women are staying active longer, and women have higher demands now. Could that be at an impact?
We're seeing women get into many different facets of life and areas and fields, and that contribution done by a female mind, which is different from a male mind, is bringing us these studies and these findings that will eventually help us live a better life, more well-being, because they are researching this. And I feel with emancipation, with equality, this is the result. You start getting women who are opening their own, clinic, their own research. And that's great.
Absolutely.
And we all benefit.
Absolutely. In a moment, I'm going to ask you for your closing words of encouragement for anybody who's watching the show going through this life-changing phase. And let's put it in perspective. If this could potentially be lasting 10 years, there's a lot of women that this show is appropriate for. What am I saying? Every woman that this show is appropriate for. But before we get there, I just want to ask you ladies, if you are in a transition period, maybe you don't even know it. Maybe you just, even there's that idea that there's something about your body that you don't recognize right now. There's something about your psychological state. There's something hormonal that you like, I don't really recognize who I am right now. What do you do? What do you do if you have even the smidgen of suspicion that you could be in perimenopause? What do you do?
Well, if I knew what I know now back then, because I suffered through it, because I had no idea, I would start reducing and managing my stress one way or another, because I know it's going to tank my hormones and make my symptoms worse. So the more changes you make going into perimenopause and menopause, you try to ease the symptoms, right? You take care of what you eat. You eat less processed foods, because in processed foods we have endocrine disruptors that will affect the hormones again.
What are endocrine disruptors?
Yeah, they're chemicals that are sprayed on our food, like pesticides, that act like hormones. They go on the receptor site in the cell. So even though your body is producing hormones, it can't go into the cell.
Because there's these chemicals blocking.
Exactly.
They're blocking.
So it's stress, it's what you eat, when you eat, to help kind of clean up the sugar insulin system of your body going into perimenopause. So there are things you can do lifestyle-wise to ease your way through it, to help your body go through it. Most importantly is the toxins and stress.
Okay. I'm going to play devil's advocate just for a second.
Sure.
Because we're talking about every woman who's going into her 40s to try and manage her stress so that she's not hitting this cortisol, which is the fight or flight, which is going to act towards depleting the hormones, but also it's going to affect how you feel about yourself and how you're feeling about this journey.
Mm-hmm.
So managing the stress and also reducing processed foods. Processed foods, excellent. No, we can do that. That's okay.
Yeah.
Reducing stress
is
not so easy. And I would say, and I just want to make a point because we missed this one out as well, that for a lot of us, if you're trying to reduce your stress, you're going to come home, you're going to want to relax. Maybe you're going to light some candles at home, put some soft music on and grab yourself a glass of wine. Alcohol in menopause is a disaster.
Yes.
You have to choose between alcohol and sleep. You cannot have both. Not my words, but this is the doctor that you follow when she was on Mel Robbins. How is there any other way of managing this cortisol in the lifestyles that we have? I mean, give me some practical applications. You did mention not scrolling late into the evening.
Yes, basically using it. So if you go to a meeting and you feel stressed, take 5 minutes, go out for a walk, or do calf raises or something. Just move.
Calf raises.
Yes, or squats. So you're using it.
Which goes back to, okay, so if we have this stressful lifestyle and we can't reduce the stress that comes in, we can deplete it by being active and bringing it down.
Yes, breathing, meditation.
Breathing is a big one.
Also, if you
Our
still
phrases, I like that. Makes your legs look great.
if you still have a cycle, the first 10 days of the cycle, your body can take more stress because estrogen is powerful. She's a diva, right? She can take a bit of stress. You have to be careful at the end when you're building progesterone because progesterone doesn't like stress. So if you want to do your stressful things, you do them at the beginning of your cycle. And the last few days of the cycle, you try to slow things down
Nice.
to honor
That
progesterone.
makes so much sense.
Yeah,
I like that.
This is going, you speak about the patriarchal society. This is what is tanking our hormones, is because we as women are trying to fit into a patriarchal society, and it's tanking our hormones.
Did you see these ladies?
This was in sync.
Yes, yes.
Right, because men, they have daily fluctuations, okay? So they're like the sun. Every day is a new day. We're like the moon. We have a cycle. Our energy, our hormones are cyclical along a month. So we can't be expected to produce like men do daily, day in, day out. We're not like that. And because we've been trying to fit into this is what's happening.
How
Again,
powerful.
Mind blown.
Yes.
I'm going home and I'm going to do calf raises.
Are you not doing them now?
I'm doing butt clenches.
It's a bit confusing.
Floor exercises.
Chiara, from your point of view, if you suspect that you are in perimenopause, these are amazing practical applications. What else can we do? I'm
So-
assuming come and see your gynae.
Well, don't be scared because perimenopause, unless there's the red flags, okay, so the prolonged heavy periods, if there's aches and pains, those, yes, if something doesn't feel right, then obviously speak up. But if you're managing stress, you don't need to come and see the doctor. And this is why I work a lot with Mari as well, because from the lifestyle point of view, I cannot give advice. I can help with supplements and medicine, but lifestyle, Mari is your girl, because she'll guide you.
You just
with
mentioned
movements.
supplements. Can we talk about supplements just for a second?
Yes. So supplements are important because they support the physiology of the body. Okay. And I like to see them as the foundation for everything. So if we need to take medicine, then medicine is an adjunct. Okay. But without certain supplements that we cannot produce, but we need to get either from food, okay, or from outside sources, something like omega-3, for example. It's anti-inflammatory. Going back to a depleted estrogen, we lose that anti-inflammatory effect. Then omega-3 is going to help with that anti-inflammatory. Vitamin D is also important. Very important for all the processes.
Vitamin D, even though we live with 30 days of sunshine?
Who stays outside? Yes, you do. I have
don't.
12-hour days. Most of us have 12-hour days, and when we go outside, we put sunblock or some sunscreen. So we're not producing enough vitamin D. And magnesium. Magnesium is amazing to help with the muscles and helps the brain, again, unwind, gives us that. So supplements are important. We talked about ashwagandha. We cannot, I feel like supplements should be part and parcel of everything.
Can I ask you just to because supplements are so important?
Yes.
Just give me a list.
A list?
So after the show, so that we can just pop some. We're going to put some contact details underneath here, right underneath the show. You're going to find some contact details. You're going to find some supplements. And you can find some pointers that you'll be able to look to if you are going through this phase. I'm going to go with closing thoughts, and I'm going to start, okay, because I don't normally have any closing thoughts, but based on my own experience, I would say if there is anything that you don't recognize in your body and you're into your 40s, do not rule out perimenopause or menopause. This could be so much of your journey already started, bearing in mind that we're now talking about 65 plus symptoms that affect every single woman differently. But find a sympathetic doctor who knows. And we can't, and this is not a criticism of the medical profession at all. Because everybody,
some of us we don't even know.
Exactly.
Unless you've studied this.
Exactly.
How can
So
you know?
find yourself a doctor who's sympathetic and understand. Don't just go to a doctor and he says you've got aches and pains. Maybe you just need to stretch more. Find somebody who, if you know that there's something wrong. Keep going until you get the answer that you need to find. Okay, I'm going to start with you, Mari, for your closing thought of encouragement for anyone going through this process.
Yes, we're finally talking about it in the open. So there's a lot of information, more than we had like 5 years ago, even less. And there's even small lifestyle changes will ease the journey. If you're going to take HRT or not going to take HRT, you still have to take care of your lifestyle. And that will ease the symptoms. So there is something we can do, something that kind of, it's not, the power is outside of yourself. You can take the power back by changing certain things.
I like that.
Yeah.
Angel, yes.
I'd say don't be scared of aging. Embrace it. This is a process. It's like the planet. It's like the stars. Everything ages. And you're one of us. So it's okay. And don't stress on the little things, you know? Just enjoy being here. Because this is happening now. And it's okay. Ups and downs, they're part of the journey. Just embrace them as they come.
I like that. I like that. And your giggle. Chiara, your last thought.
Obviously, I second all of your thoughts, but touch a little bit on what you said earlier about the fertility window now closing. So if you're recognizing that you're going through perimenopause and you really want to have a family, then do please check this, because there are things we can do. And when it's going into menopause, then it's too late and the window has closed. So perimenopause does not mean the end of everything. Okay, there are things we can do.
Cheers to that. Ladies, thank you so much. I am so glad.
Cheers.
Chin chin.
We had this conversation. Bomba. Cheers.
Cheers.